Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us today for this teleconference. We are joined with Commissioner Keith Gill. After a brief opening statement, we will open up to questions from members of the media. And again, as a reminder for those joining us today, to star one to ask questions and to get in the queue. So we are now joined with the Commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference, Keith Gill. Keith, would you mind starting us off with a opening statement today?
Okay, thank you so much, Travis. Just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Yesterday was really hard. So really, really tough day yesterday for the conference. First of all, I just want to express my, good wishes and get well wishes to the folks that actually tested positive for COVID-19. Obviously, we see how difficult that the pandemic has been for this country. And so obviously we want to send our best wishes to those folks that are recovering and hopefully they're feeling well. Obviously really disappointing in how our season ended, that we don't have this great championship game. Two ranked teams, two teams ranked in the CFP. So we were really excited about that on ESPN at 3:30 Eastern. And just a great time slot. So obviously that is, it's disappointing, really a terrible feeling. But, I don't think that can define the season for the Sun Belt. We had a great year this year. We had the opportunity to showcase Sun Belt football in a lot of different ways, under some really challenging circumstances. And I really just want to say I'm proud to be a part of the Sun Belt Conference. I'm proud of our members. So great leadership from our CEOs, our ADs, our football coaches, and I'm most proud of our student athletes to play through some really difficult times and to have what is a remarkable football season for the Sun Belt Conference. So I would also just like to say, I feel, I just feel terrible for the coaches and players for Louisiana and for Coastal Carolina, that they won't get the opportunity to participate in the championship game. So I know they worked hard this year to do that, and so to not have that opportunity is a bit of a challenge. So we will award co-champions, so from a Sun Belt standpoint. So we've got two football champions this year in 2020. So we'll be able to celebrate both of them, which is certainly exciting. And we would have loved to have solved it on the field, but we can certainly celebrate two great seasons in that regard. So with that, I will open it up for questions.
Thank you very much. As a reminder to our members of the media, to star one to get in the queue. Our first questions come from Chris Zanini with The Athletic. Please go ahead, Chris.
Keith, is there any chance these teams could play in a bowl game against each other?
Yeah, certainly. I've certainly heard some of that chatter, and I certainly get why people would think that that's exciting. It's not something that I anticipate. So I would never say never. It's 2020, so you don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day, but I don't. It's not something that I would anticipate happening.
And for Coastal, even without this second game happening, the fact that they already have a win over Louisiana, do you feel like Coastal is deserving of a top 10 ranking in New Year's sixth spot, regardless of what happens with Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, I do think Coastal's body of work is deserving of a New Year's sixth spot, So no matter what happens with Louisiana, or no matter what happens in the American Championship, Coastal will have more wins than both of those teams. They will also have more better wins than both of those teams. And so I think, in Coastal's body of work, they've done enough to be in the New Year's Six. And I also think Louisiana is deserving as well. They've had a great season as well. And, the win over Iowa State is one of the best wins on the board. And so they deserve to be honored as well.
All right, thank you, Chris. Our next questions come from Tim Buckley with the Daily Advertiser. Please go ahead, Tim.
Morning, Keith.
Good morning.
Keith, Brian Magger, the Cajuns athletic director, has said that he would let people draw their own conclusions as to why this game really was canceled. What are your feelings, your thoughts on that?
I think the country has been, in this constant struggle with this virus since March, and so it's just hard, when things seem like they're moving in a way that something can happen, and then unfortunately, the virus kind of sneaks up. So I just think it's an unfortunate, bad timing in terms of having COVID-19 and then the contact tracing. I just think that the timing is bad, but I certainly think that, it's another one of those things that you can chalk up to COVID-19 and this really difficult pandemic that we're all living through.
And so do you not buy any suggestion that there is anything more to it than that along the lines of trying to improve Coastal's chances?
I think this is about COVID. This is about, our league protocols that we put in place earlier in the year. And we did that for health and safety, and at the end of the day, we said that we're going to err on the side of health and safety. And so that's what we did in this instance. So I think it is, another, situation. And we've had several this year where, because of our protocols that our medical folks have come up with in terms of trying to keep our folks safe, they intervened in such a way that we weren't able to participate or weren't able to stage our championship game.
Okay. And last thing, very quick. Do you know, is there, for CFP, is there any designation of if conference co-champions would suffice in terms of highest ranked group of 5 champions?
Yeah, so the co-champion piece is really about the Sun Belt recognition. So for CFP purposes, the CFP will recognize the highest ranked team as the champion for CFP purposes. So that is, we all file contingency plans with the CFP in the event something were to happen to the championship game. So we worked through kind of this issue as a league earlier this fall, and so for the CFP, as it relates to the Sun Belt, the highest ranked CFP team from our conference will be considered the champion for CFP purposes. For Sun Belt purposes, we are recognizing both as champions, and we're having co-champs.
Gotcha. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you, Tim. Our next questions come from Ralph Russo with the Associated Press. Please go ahead, Ralph.
Thanks, and thanks for doing this, Keith. I've been asking a lot of people around this time of the year as the season winds down has this been a successful season? You guys have been so good at getting almost all of your games in, but to not be able to actually hand a championship trophy, I know that was a huge part of what was going to make for a successful season. So how do you sort of define success, and how do you, sort of look at whether this is a successful season considering you didn't quite get to the finish line that's so important?
Well, I think this is a successful season. There's no question about it, and I believe that with all my heart. We started this season knowing that there would be disruption, and we've kind of played through that disruption, and you don't have the opportunity to schedule when your disruption is going to happen. And so it's unfortunate, the timing, and certainly this would have been another kind of part of our successful season. But I don't think that this setback takes away at all from the successful season we've had as a Sun Belt, or from Coastal's great year, or from Louisiana's great year. I think it's unfortunate that we didn't get to finish it the way that we would have liked. And so obviously we all regret that, and certainly are disappointed. But the reality is it's been a great year for the Sun Belt. It's been a great year for Sun Belt football. And I certainly understand the magnitude of this game cancellation. But, this single event isn't going to, at least in my mind, detract from our success. And so we certainly wish we'd played the game, but unfortunately we did not have the opportunity to do so.
And if I could just get one quick follow-up to what Chris had asked you about a bowl game possibility, you said you don't anticipate that. I guess the question would be why? What better options would they have, or why do you think that that's not a good option? Because it certainly is going to be a weird bowl season anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the bowl season has a lot of moving parts. So I didn't say it wasn't a good option or a better option or this. I just said that, I don't anticipate that. And so that's just based on, what I know about conversations we're having about bowls and opportunities and some of the challenges are out there in the system. I wouldn't anticipate that as I don't anticipate that as an opportunity that would happen.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ralph. Our next questions come from Danny Kelly with the Post and Courier. Please go ahead, Danny.
Hey, Commissioner. So my question is, even if Cincinnati wins, in your mind, do you think that Coastal should have been ranked ahead of Cincinnati to begin with coming into this week, and then maybe would have had a shot at being named to a New Year's Six Bowl, being a co-champion, like the highest-ranked co-champion? But yeah, do you just feel like Coastal's resume would still be better than Cincinnati's, even if Cincinnati beats Tulsa?
I do think so. Yeah, I just think they have more wins and they have better wins, and so, played a tougher schedule, won those games, won more games. So I do think Coastal's resume is better than Cincinnati.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Our next questions come from Gabe McDonald with WMBF News. Please go ahead, Gabe.
Hey, Commissioner, appreciate you taking the time. I guess, were there any thoughts of, with Coastal having the head-to-head win, were there any thoughts of only recognizing them, or were you guys always on board as having the co-champions?
Yeah, this decision was made by our ADs back in the fall. So we had already talked through it, and it's always important to talk through these things before you're actually presented with a situation. So we already knew how this would be handled if it was going to happen. And so there wasn't any hesitation last night because we'd already made that determination.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. Our next questions come from Raymond Partridge with KLWB. Please go ahead, Raymond.
Keith, my first question is this. With Coastal being forced to cancel the championship game due to protocol, due to quarantine and everything with COVID, are they going to be even able to play in either of the bowl games that are still open that are affiliated with the Sun Belt Conference?
Yeah, so, I mean, and we'll obviously have to visit with Coastal to see kind of the progression. I don't know the answer to that. So we're certainly optimistic that they will be able to participate, but we'll have to have some follow-up questions. We'll have to have some follow-up discussion with them just to make sure that they'd be in position so that they can safely play.
And my follow-up to that, Commissioner, is with having two teams ranked so high in the college football playoff rankings, the conference has a great opportunity to maybe put them in bigger, more bowls with better name recognition. Is that something you and your office are going to be trying to do in this unprecedented bowl season?
I mean, the bowl matchups are generally dictated by contracts, so there's not a lot of ability to kind of move around. We certainly look to find the best matchups that we can. We do that year in and year out for all of our bowl teams. And so for Coastal and Louisiana, that'll be no different. We'll look to try to get the best matchups that we can find for both of those teams.
So, Commissioner, does that mean that it's going to be either the Camellia Bowl or the Cure Bowl for those two teams then?
Well, I think it means that we're going to be looking for the best matchups. But certainly, there are contracts in place that govern these things. And so, we have our 5 bowl contracts, and those are our primary relationships. And so, but if there's opportunities, then we certainly will explore those. But at this stage, it would be too early for us to know kind of what will be available and what won't be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. Our next questions come from Brad Bobo with the Ticket in Jonesboro. Please go ahead, Brad.
Thanks, guys. Just you've given how much talk there's been about the way the committee has sort of viewed these teams anyway. How concerned are you about kind of how they'll view, especially in Coastal's case, not getting a chance to pick up another win against a ranked team?
Yeah, hopefully they don't view that negatively. Coastal's played 11 games and won 11 games. So right now they've won more games than any team in FBS. And that won't change. The best that can happen is they'll be tied for the most wins. So they have a full body of work, and certainly would it have been helpful to get another data point? I think it's always helpful to get another data point for the evaluation process. But I'm hopeful that when you look at their full resume and their full body of work, that people will see how positive it is and how deserving they are. And so I'm optimistic that the committee will recognize Coastal for the good things that they've done this season, and not hold it against them that they didn't have the opportunity to play this game.
And then sort of just, I guess, how much planning can be done in terms of the other two bowl games you're tied into before letting the weekend play out and even getting to Tuesday and sort of see where things are with the rankings?
I don't know that. Can you help me with that question again?
Well, just is it possible to really slot those teams yet, or do you have to kind of wait until, I guess, Tuesday to see where things stand?
Yeah. So, it really will be Sunday. So once the games happen on Saturday, then I think there will be things in the bowl picture that become a lot more clear, and then that will give us an opportunity to kind of determine where folks are going, on Sunday.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brad. And our final questions come from Dan McDonald with The Advocate. Please go ahead, Dan.
Morning, Keith.
Good morning.
Could you go through the timeline as it's been told to you? Could you sort of go through the timeline of how all this took place? When was the testing? When was the realization that you had a positive? And how late, how quickly were all the decisions made?
Yeah, so, I think that as I think about it, so my first call was yesterday evening from the Coastal AD, and then we had 2 or 3 calls last night at various points through the night with, doctors, Louisiana, our communication staff. And so that played out through the night until we had our release. And I feel like our release was at maybe 10:30 Eastern time. So in some ways this played out, at least from the first call that I received until that release, over the course of maybe 4 hours as we kind of went back and forth just trying to figure out the best approach and making sure we understood what the issues were. And then ultimately deciding that it wouldn't be safe to play, so we needed to cancel the game.
And let me ask one more question, and I hate for this to sound pessimistic, but this is one that we got on our local radio shows this morning. Are you confident that protocols have been followed? The reason I ask is that when you have watched some of these games on television, you see students all grouped together, none of them wearing masks. You see people that are not practicing social distancing. How confident are you that protocols have been followed in all these cases?
Yeah, I certainly am confident that protocols are followed. I certainly recognize it's hard to do it in every circumstance. So there are times that they're not followed, but I think certainly our football programs in the Sun Belt, I feel like, have done a good job of adhering to protocols, and which has allowed us to play as many games as we've played. So I'm confident that our folks are making the best effort. I don't know that any of us can do it 100% of the time. Certainly that is the goal. That's what we try to do. But I do think for the most part, our programs are following our protocols and doing the best that they can to mitigate the spread of the virus.
Appreciate it, Keith.
All right, thank you, Dan. We'll go to Alan Blondin with the Sun News. Please go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, Commissioner. I actually had a question about the Myrtle Beach Bowl. I'm just trying to figure out, was there not a better opponent that could be found for App State at 9-3 at was Conference USA? Did they not have a better opponent other than North Texas with a 4-5 record and 4 not very good wins and some very bad losses?
Yeah, I just think that the bowl picture is really complex. Trying to fit it all together, I think particularly in COVID, in the COVID space, it makes it more challenging. And so I think that, thinking about this year and all the challenges of it, I'm just excited that there is going to be postseason. I'm excited that App is going to have the opportunity to play close to home. And that really is my focus, is that, it's going to be a good opportunity for App to play another game close to home against a Conference USA opponent, and hopefully they'll come away victorious.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Alan. And it appears that Danny Kelly with the Post Courier has a follow-up. Please go ahead, Danny.
Hi, yeah. So I was just curious, if Coastal ultimately ends up not making a New Year's Six Bowl, would there be a chance that either the Cure Bowl or the Camellia Bowl would be moved back at all, just considering the fact that, it's kind of up in the air if Coastal would be able to play, a week from now?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I mean, that's really a question more for our television partners, and we certainly don't know the implications of when Coastal would be ready to play. So I don't know the answer to that question. So
that's okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Danny. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. That concludes the teleconference. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. And if a copy of this audio is needed, please feel free to reach out to the Sunbelt Conference office. Thank you very much for everyone for joining us today, and this will conclude today's call.